So just some reminders before we get into the video. First reminder is to make sure that you're keeping an eye out and an ear out for the key word for this lesson. Reminder number 2 is to make sure you're taking notes. Include the date, lesson number, aim, and standards to help you refer back in your notes. Let's get to it. Okay, welcome back. We are still in Unit 2 on proportional relationships. Today we are going to be talking about lesson number 5. Our aim for today is how can we use proportional relationships to solve real world problems. So today we're going to be talking about two concepts, scale factor and sample population, and we're going to apply our knowledge of proportions and how we can solve proportions in order to figure out and solve these real world problems. All right, so the first thing that we're going to go over is what a model is. So you probably have heard that in the past or in real life before, but a model in this case, in terms of scale factor, is going to be a representation of an actual object. So a representation of an actual object. So some examples would be a toy car. They're toy car replicas of real life cars. Usually there are a lot of vintage cars that are made into toy cars. We have a map. Maps are models of just a smaller representation of an area. Could be a town, could be a state. Also a blueprint. A blueprint, if you know architecture, is basically a drawing of or scale model of basically a building. So scale factor is going to be the ratio that compares the length of the model to the actual object. And the actual object, we're referring to the real life. So the real life car, the real life size state or town or building that we're talking about. The proportion would be the larger length, or we can say the actual, the large or actual, over the small or the model. And that's going to be set equal to your actual scale factor over the model scale factor. You would solve the proportion the same way as any other proportion. You can use cross multiplication. You can use scaling up or scaling down. You can find the unit rate. Now moving on to the second concept, or the real world concept, sample population. A sample population is when you take a selection of a larger group, or you use that selection to represent the larger group. So the sample population is a selection taken to represent a larger group. And the proportion for that would be sample part over the sample total. And you're comparing it to the population or the larger group. That part over the population total. Again, solving it just like you would normally solve a proportion. So the first question, Kim has a map of New York with a scale of 1 inch to 8 miles. If Kim's house is 3 3/8 inches away from work on a map, how many miles does she live from work? So we're given the scale, inches to miles, and then we need to be figuring out how many miles. So when we talk about how many miles, we're actually talking about the real life or actual distance. And when you're thinking about inches to miles, real life distances are measured in miles. So what we can do here, set up our proportion. So I have the actual 8 miles over 1 inch. I don't know how many miles, that's what I'm trying to figure out, in 3 3/8 inches. I know that's how far away her house is from work. So I'm going to cross multiply. So what I'll do is I'll multiply 3 3/8 by 8, and I'll get 1x, which is just x. And that should be the distance in miles from Kim's house to work. 3 3/8 times 8 will be 27. So x equals 27, which really would be 27 miles. And that's my answer for number 1. Number 2. So number 2, the Statue of Liberty is 305 feet tall. The height of a replica toy Statue of Liberty is 5 inches. You need to figure out the scale that was used. So you're given 305 feet tall, you're given the 5 inches, now you need to figure out the scale. So we have feet, 2 inches, we have 305 over 5. I'm going to simplify. We get 65 feet over 1 inch. So our scale would be 65 feet to 1 inch, written out like this as a ratio, or you can even use the colon. Here is number 3 with a sample population. So we did 2 scale factor. Now we're going to do a sample population example. Okay, so for number 3, Target sells boxes of movies. The movies purchased during November are shown in the table below. Based on November's orders, approximately how many boxes of Sonic the Hedgehog movies would sell if 500 orders were placed online? So you need to know the frequency of Sonic the Hedgehog, and that would be 975 boxes were sold. So pause the video here and try it on your own, then come back and check your answers. The first thing that you need to figure out after knowing the frequency of Sonic the Hedgehog movies would be the total number of orders. So if we add up 975, 1,024, and 1,000, you're going to get 2,999 movies were sold between Sonic the Hedgehog, Onward, and The Invisible Man. Out of the 2,999, you want to focus solely on Sonic the Hedgehog, which 975 of those were sold. The question is asking you on the next 500 orders, how many would be Sonic the Hedgehog based on the numbers already provided. So the total would be 500, and the missing part is Sonic the Hedgehog. Remember, you're using the 975 we got from the table to represent and to predict the next 500. So we're going to cross multiply 975 times 500. That's going to be 487,500. And then we're going to take that and divide it by your 2,999. So 4,807,500 divided by 2,999. Once you get that, you are going to total will be 162.55. And remember, you're using your rounding rules. You're going to take the 5 and round to the nearest number. So 5 and above, give it a shove. That 2 becomes a 3. Because we're talking about whole movie boxes. So 163 orders is going to be Sonic the Hedgehog. So we're going to end the video here. Stay tuned for part 2 of lesson number 5. Identify the keyword, mark down your questions, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.